It was like I could feel and see the world spinning around me while I was standing still. So as I stood there trying to catch my breath and my balance, even though I felt still, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, am I having a panic attack? Welcome to the Women Rock in Midlife podcast, soulful wellness to elevate your second act. You deserve to deeply love every moment of your life, living your best life with pure joy, optimal health and abundance, with the energy, time, and inner peace to savor experiences with your loved ones and with yourself. Hi, I'm Jen Kunkel. Join me on this soulful journey to complete wellness in midlife and beyond. So I have a question for you. When did you know that you were going through menopause? And was it a surprise? Did it go as expected? Or did you have unexpected symptoms? Did it go differently than you thought it would? Well, I'll tell you what happened for me. I was in my early 40s and I missed a period. And I thought, oh my gosh, please do not let me be pregnant. Let this be menopause. And I thought, oh, it's just going to stop and that'll be it. So anyway, I took a pregnancy test. I probably took several of them because I was kind of worried about that. And negative, negative, negative. So the next month, my period shows up as usual. I was pretty regular at this point in my life. And for probably about 2 years, they showed up regularly. So that didn't go as expected. I thought they would just stop and that would be it. And I know women have symptoms and all of this stuff, but I didn't know about all of the symptoms, first of all. For whatever reason, which I'll get into later, I just thought, oh, I'm going to have an easy menopause and my periods are just going to stop and that'll be that. Well, that's not what happened. I was in perimenopause for a very long time, at least 10 years. I don't remember exactly what age that was, but every once in a while I would miss a period, and that was all I really noticed, and that was actually all I knew about at the time, even with the research that I did. Either I ignored any mention of other symptoms or I didn't see anything about that. Because I was at the time I was just looking up missed periods in menopause and, sporadically missing them. So it was only a couple of years ago that I would say I was fully done, through menopause and had over 12 months without having a period because I would have them sporadically. Anyhow, my point here is, number one, let's talk about it more so people know what to expect and what's going on. And I don't think I'm going to get any argument from anybody who's actually going through it, right? My next point is about all the symptoms that I still wasn't aware of. Some of them I ended up having and didn't even realize it was due to perimenopause. But let me just fast forward for a second. So a few years ago, I'm 55 now, so I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, something like that, I started gaining weight, probably 3 or 4 years ago. I started really gaining weight, like quickly, and it was surprising. So I did some things to counteract that. I've been into fitness and nutrition my whole life, and I've had phases in my life where I get super lazy about it, and I've had phases in my life where I'm totally consistent about it. Well, when menopause decided to really, hit that part, I was in one of those not being consistent at all about it phases. And I changed some things. I started walking and I started eating better and being more conscious. And I actually did some more extreme things. And I lost some weight and I started feeling better. The big thing is I started feeling better. I was not feeling so lethargic. I wasn't feeling like bloated in my feet and everywhere. Like joints weren't so achy. I just started feeling healthier. So that was a good thing. I didn't lose weight as quickly as I thought I would for as extreme as I went for a short period of time. And actually going that extreme for a short period of time, I do not advise that, because when I finished this extreme thing, I kind of went off the rails. I gave myself a little leeway for a couple days, and that couple days just extended. and I ended up gaining even more weight back. So I was initially going to work with women on the weight gain because I know about all those things, and what I was doing at first was working slowly but surely. But I sort of derailed myself by, even though I was making progress on this more, the slow, more sensible path, I decided to go extreme because sometimes I do that. Anyway. And then I went extreme in the opposite direction, which is a completely understandable reaction. And I decided, well, I don't really feel comfortable helping women with weight loss when I don't feel like I have actually implemented the solid plan that I believe in yet. So I thought of another way to help because as I was still doing the research, finding out what problems women are having and what can I really help with and how can I help the best, I did find I wanted to help, I wanted to help people get out of this. And while fitness and nutrition is something that's really near and dear to my heart and it's going to factor in at some point, I just felt like hypocritical because I wasn't really implementing it as fully as I would have liked to before I start showing other people. So one thing I do feel confident in, though, is stress relief. And stress is such a huge factor with menopause. It's actually a factor with the weight gain too. But stress is a factor in menopause even more than that. I mean, you probably know if you're listening, right? It's more than I initially thought. The stress, and not just stress, but anxiety and all of the emotional mood swings. Well, I know I can help women with stress. In fact, the first workshop I ever did in this arena, I used to be a chemical engineer, and a couple years into it, well, actually during school, I knew that it wasn't really something I was super passionate about, but I was married at the time, and if I would have quit and changed what I was majoring in college, my husband would have probably not been too happy about that. Anyway, so I ended up getting my degree in chemical engineering. I worked for a couple of years in the semiconductor industry, but I wasn't really happy with that. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, one of the things that I did is I had been teaching myself yoga, and I had learned some relaxation techniques and meditation, both from books and seminars and tape programs. Tape programs were the thing back then. This was in the 90s. Anyway, the yoga, by the way, I taught myself from a library book because there was no YouTube at the time. This was early 90s or sometime in the 90s when, the internet was new, actually. So there was no YouTube yet. There weren't yoga studios on every corner. That wasn't a thing. There might have been some yoga studios, but I didn't even look for them, I don't think. So I was a big fan of the library and researching things from books. And that's how I learned how to do a lot of things. So I found a book at the library and I started doing yoga and taught myself yoga. And I was doing that on a regular basis. And then, like I said, I had learned some relaxation techniques from seminars that I went to. And meditations, and I also had a meditation book, I remember, and then I had some tape programs, so I don't know if some of those were meditations or not. Most of them were like the personal development stuff. So anyway, I decided I want to do something else besides engineering, and I'm doing this alongside it at first. So I created this stress management workshop. Well, then I left my job. I got divorced. I moved back to Las Vegas. Again, a whole nother story there. But obviously was not happy with my life and just did some personal assessments and changed everything. This was when I was 30, actually. I got divorced right around my 30th birthday. And I had already done one stress management workshop, and my mom filled it for me, actually, because she did all this networking, which I didn't even know what that was, but that's a different story too. So anyhow, long story short, I did a handful of these small in-person stress management workshops during that time while I was exploring exactly what I wanted to do. And even though I ended up diverting my path professionally, I went into some life coaching, business coaching, and I did sales for my family's telecommunications business at the same time. So anyway, I was not teaching this anymore after doing the first handful. I was young and I just lacked the confidence, really. I think I was actually on the right track. I was doing okay. People were getting results even though I was so young, and I kind of didn't know what I was doing at the time, as far as facilitating workshops. But I have honed my skills since. I've done Toastmasters, I've facilitated more things. Anyway, but I've coached people in other areas, and I continued to use all of these stress management tools in my own life, and not just stress management, but deeper than that. So for the past 2.5 decades, I've been using these tools in my own life. I've been expanding my knowledge. I've been refining my methods. I've used some of it in conjunction with my coaching, of course. And I've refined these methods to distill down to the most powerful universal practices that I feel can work for anyone. Well, let's go back to the perimenopause I was experiencing, right? I realized that I had actually used these tools almost instinctively as a reaction to my own perimenopausal anxiety that I did not recognize as perimenopausal. That's a tongue twister. Anxiety. And that started maybe around in my mid 40s, maybe a little bit later 40s. I would have wild thoughts that I'm not even sure I can explain now. And I didn't really know what was going on. Sometimes I would feel like I was losing my grip on reality. And I just thought it was stuff going on in the world because, there had been different things happening in the world that created stress in my life. The economic downturn in 2008, which probably was even before that was actually, I don't know, it was all happening at once, right? So I thought it's just the world, whatever. I ended up selling my house, I think in 2010, because it was so upside down and I didn't think it was ever going to turn around, and it just seemed like the timing was right. It still needed a lot of work. I didn't know if I wanted to sink any more money or time into it. So anyway, that took me down a whole different path. I started becoming minimalist. I was actually looking at a whole nother story, but so that took me down this whole other path, which I wouldn't trade that for the world, by the way, because I feel like I have insights and belief systems and perspectives on the world that I wouldn't have. But anyway, I only mentioned that because there was a lot of stuff going on in the world. And then in 2019, I had a lot of deaths in my family, and then 2020, COVID hit. And this is around the time when I was having all these thoughts. I thought I was having just an existential crisis or something. And there was one day I remember putting away groceries and my mind just started racing, and I felt as if the world was spinning around me. Not as if I was spinning, but as literally, it was like I could feel and see the world spinning around me while I was standing still. So as I stood there trying to catch my breath and my balance, even though I felt still, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, am I having a panic attack? And I felt so surprised because I had never experienced anything like this before. I'm actually usually pretty calm and collected, especially these days, at this point, because I do so much meditation and all that kind of stuff, relaxation and personal development, energy work on myself, that kind of thing. I'm usually pretty grounded. And I had not been doing those things on a regular basis at this time. So in that moment, as the world feels like it's hurricaning around me and I'm feeling dizzy, I started to ground myself, taking some long, deep breaths and, bringing myself into some of my practices to get control of my thoughts. I'm absolutely certain that my experience with all the mindfulness practices that I have done throughout my life helped me come out of this attack rather quickly by myself. I was alone. And then I didn't really think too much of it. I mean, yeah, I thought that was weird what was going on there. And it just seemed like one more thing that was like, what's going on with me? Am I losing it? And questioning my sanity. Well, a similar incident happened again within, I think, the next few days. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's happening again. What is the deal? And I came out of that one even faster. And then I started using my practices again regularly, refining what I was doing, going deeper. I'm a constant learner, so I was always learning more, more techniques, different ways to look at things. And I probably had kind of slacked off of that for a while, feeling like I was going in this spiral and not really doing anything to dig myself out of it until that happened, when it got so extreme that it was like a panic attack. So I picked everything back up again. I started reading my books again. I started reading new books, and I started using these practices. So it's clear to me now that those anxiety attacks were due to perimenopause. And that led me to two other realizations, one of which I already mentioned. Women are experiencing all this stress and anxiety with perimenopause that most people don't understand. Like, even we don't understand it because it's not talked about enough. So part of my mission is to help open up the conversation about it so women do know what to expect and how to deal with it. There's many options. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And personally, I'm into natural solutions, and I'm here for other women who want that too. So the second realization that I've had is that I can help women make the stress and anxiety less with the same kind of mind-body practices that I've used for myself for decades, so they don't have to rely on medications if they want natural solutions like I do. And then I realized there's actually a third realization, right? I'm convinced that these practices are the reason that I've been able to keep most of the physical symptoms of menopause at bay for this whole time. So yes, I had those anxiety attacks. Yes, I had racing thoughts and feeling like I was going crazy. And once I picked up my mindfulness practices again, that's just how I'm explaining them. It's really deeper than that. It's not just mindfulness. It's not just meditation. It's like mind, body, emotional release work. Anyway, it's a lot, and it's simplified by the way that I do it. So right now, that's how I explain it. Mind, body, emotional release practices. And I really feel I'm actually discovering as we speak, as I'm researching and reading more about menopause and these mind-body practices and some of the research, the actual scientific studies that are behind some of this work that I've already been doing in one form or another. Like I didn't know that it was backed by science, and maybe it wasn't when I started doing it. And some of it has come to me intuitively. Some of it is takes on things that I've learned from other people. Some of it is things that I've directly learned from other people. So the bottom line is that I'm seeing evidence that this stuff works for the physical symptoms, not just stress and anxiety. So but I definitely know it works for stress and anxiety, and that's scientifically proven as well. So, do you want to feel in control of your thoughts and your emotions? Do you crave that feeling of waking up, feeling refreshed, knowing that you're well rested and you had a good night's sleep? Do you want to feel better, happier, more energetic again? Are you tired of just powering through menopause It makes me so sad when I see somebody talking about just powering through it because they want natural solutions. They don't want to go on the medications and they think that's the only option. So are you looking for natural solutions and you want something that works? Let me ask you this. Think about it. Seriously, come up with an answer in your head. What is the one thing that you most want to change about your menopause experience? What is the one thing that you would look forward to the most if you could resolve this? Think about it right now, seriously. What is something, if you could just wave a magic wand and poof, this one thing gets to change? What would you change? And how would that impact you? You don't have to power through. There are other ways to do this. Are you willing to look outside of the box of what's conventional and consider another way? If you are, and if I could help you change your menopause experience, have it look the way you want it to look, would it be worth talking with me for a while? So I'm offering you my time for free, 15, 20, 30 minutes, okay? 30-minute session with me. Go to wildsavvy.com/chat apply and we will hop on a Zoom together, meet face to face, and I'll help you get clarity on what you're looking for and if this might be a good solution for you. And if you're not ready to talk with me yet, that's totally cool. And by the way, when we do talk, if you are ready, it's no pressure. I'm not pushy. It's not like a sales pitch. Yes, I will share with you at the end, if it makes sense for you, and if it's okay with you, how you can work with me. But it's no pressure. You get the information, you make a decision. You don't have to make a decision on the spot. You can make it later. But if you're not ready to talk with me yet, check out my free Menopause Balance mini course at wildsavvy.com/gift, or I'm creating this week, so it will be up by the time this episode gets up, my free audio activation at wildsavvy.com/mp3. All right, the audio activation, I don't even know exactly what it's going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be something for hot flashes to calm them in an instant. You can be my case studies. Check it out. Let me know how it works for you. All right. I will see you next time. Much love. Stay calm. It's all solvable. All right. Have a great day.